I'm like, we're
just coming in
right now. Yeah. And it's
You put us on live already?
Yeah.
Here? Okay.
So we are live. Welcome back again to podcast today. Super excited. With me, I have Steven, my man over here, from ChazMatazz, Tom's River.
Yep.
Literally, dude is a legend. Got my wedding done there. I got my suits there for business. The place is like honestly, in my opinion, I mean, everybody that lives in Tom's River knows you, right? That if you've been to a high school and you went to a prom or went to a wedding and you live in Tom's River, you know this guy.
Yeah, right.
You got to know this guy. So, but me not being from Tom's River, right? So I wound up, I married my wife who's from Tom's River, and she told me about ChazMatazz, which I'm super excited about. And this is 2017,
Yes.
right? So wow, it's been a while. So she's like, oh, John, you got to go to ChazMatazz. They have good stuff there. My brother went there for prom, blah blah blah. And I said to her verbatim, I go, Jack, I'm not going to a tuxedo rental place. I go, I'm getting my own suit. I'm buying my suit. I want to have it because I'm in suits every day. I want to have a custom, sexy suit, right? Hashtag him too, right?
Yeah. His day too. Hashtag his day
right.
too.
Oh, that's it. Right. Hashtag his day too. Better yet. Sorry, correction. Because in the weddings, obviously, it's mainly all about the women. So anyway, so we go there. I go there by myself actually, which is what, because if she came with me that day, I probably wouldn't have got that. So anyway, went to ChazMatazz. And the day we went there, you were so busy, as I'm sure, obviously, it's always the case. So you're super busy. You have so much going on. I'm looking around, and I remember, having a conversation with you, and I'm like, I'm looking for something really nice. And then you pulled up two ones for me, and it's crazy. So you pulled up the first one, which I was going to buy, and it's the one that Sal wound up getting for his wedding.
The blue one.
The blue one. So I was so set on that, right? And I was like, you know what? Before I buy it, let me make sure because she's gonna kick my ass. So I sent it to her, and the blue one, she's like, no. She kept saying I look like Hugh Hefner. Sorry, Sal. But it was sexy. I love that suit. So or that blazer. And then so fast forward, you pulled out the white and black one.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, like this is sick. So long story short, that put me on ChazMatazz, right? Because I was like, wow. This is incredible, the stuff you have there, and what's so different, and why I'm so stoked to have you on the podcast. Obviously, me being a customer, right, is that most people don't realize. Like, people go there for prom, people go there for those types of things, but when you're in real estate or when you're in a sales position, or if you're somebody who's in formal attire for everyday usage, whether you're going to the city or in that type of business, like you have some really nice formal wear for men when it comes to dressing like that. And a lot of times when I'm wearing my suit jackets or suits that I would get from you guys, people are always like, where did you get that? And they find it so hard to believe. So my main question for you, right, because you have this eye for this stuff that you get in the store that I'm like, how the fuck is this in Tom's River, right? Because it's like New York fashion that you're bringing down to Tom's River.
I try.
Yeah. Well, so what got you on that, right? So like, how did that start?
For bringing the stuff into the store.
Yeah, like the type of stuff you have in there.
It's crazy because as our market keeps changing in Tom's River, back in the day, you're just the sticks. We're the pineys. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's literally has been changing as the demographic has changed. More and more people are moving down here from Long Island, Staten Island, and North Jersey. So for us to stay relevant, I felt we need to bring in the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that was the main reason, is just the customers kept asking.
Right.
And I didn't want to turn into that store because this is our 32nd year. I didn't want to come to that store that had fence where but that's where my grandfather went. Oh, that's where my dad went.
Right.
They don't have anything. They have these horrible fits. They don't really have any style. And when you see people on TV wearing, I'll use Nick Cannon as a perfect example. When he was on that show, almost every night, that entertainment show.
Right.
Cool jackets.
Walling out. Comedy?
No, shoot. It was a
doesn't matter.
Kind of like America's Got Talent, I think.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And he's showing up.
Oh,
every
yes.
night,
Okay, I know you're talking about.
wearing these fun coats, these dinner jackets, and deconstructing the look so it didn't look like you just had I got a little bow tie and I got my pleated shirt.
Right.
But had the fun jackets. So that's between the combination of that.
Yeah.
And then my high school friend I played football with, his son came into the store and he goes, Steven, don't you have anything that's exciting? And I'm showing all these awesome rental stuff.
Yeah.
That's new. He goes, don't you have anything unique? I'm like, well, this is new. This is new.
Right.
He goes, I want to just be there looking like nobody else.
Mm.
And that's when it clicked. And that was about 2000 and I guess 2016, 15 is when I started making those changes.
Wow. So okay, so it's been a little while now.
Yeah.
But 31 or 32 years you said?
This is our 32nd year as a brand as ChazMatazz.
Let's go. That's huge. And for anybody watching in, like so I was looking at this statistic. In business, the first year that most small businesses are in business, I think the likelihood is 1 in 5 businesses fail in year 1. And the surprising part is that as the years increase, sometimes up until 10 years, it gets even higher. The rate of people failing, but 32 years, that's incredible. Obviously, you've seen a lot of different trends in the men's fashion wear, but so now some of the things that I want to dive a little bit deeper. So, like I said, you have New York type fashion down in Ocean County.
Yes.
So, do you see people coming in, like, are you getting a lot of requests for those types of things? Is that why you keep adding it in and bringing things? Like, even the shoes you have, dude, like the shoes are on fire. Even the ChazMatazz, and you look at their shoe selection, it's like, and this is the thing. This is why I love ChazMatazz too, because when you go to ChazMatazz, literally, like anybody here who like shops at like a Marshalls or any store that's a guy store, the men's departments always shrink year over year over year, and the women get everything in shopping, right? When it comes to, I don't care if you go to Kohl's, JCPenney's, whatever the hell, Nordstrom. Everywhere that you go for men and you're shopping, every year the department gets smaller and smaller and smaller. That's why I feel like I'm like a kid in Disney. Every time I go to ChazMatazz, I'm not even kidding. My wife is always like, if I go, hey, I'm going to ChazMatazz, she's always like, oh shit, because she knows I go like crazy in there because you don't get that experience other places. And especially when you like to have nice shoes, obviously you guys have good shirts in there, like even casual shirts. So where do you find the inspiration to get some of the stuff you have in there?
Oh, that's crazy. Because sometimes it's just things that I'll look through different people just posting stuff up. I mean, of course I look at what some of the celebrities wear.
Right.
I've always looked at like a David Beckham, even JC when he got Beyonce-fied and started. People like that who I'm like, wow, check them out. What can I do to bring that here? But also, like, even when I always wanted to live in Europe. Okay? So I'm always looking to Europe. Back in high school.
Where in Europe, though?
Doesn't really
matter. He's like, just get me in Europe. I don't give a shit.
I mean, I love Ireland. I love Spain. I love Italy.
Right.
Those are the 3 countries that I really like. But honestly, you put me anywhere in Europe and I'll be more than happy.
Right.
But my father, being off the boat or off the plane German.
Yeah.
And he always dressed, what I mean? Even though he did construction, when it came to Friday night, going out to dinner, if it was Saturday, Sunday, always dressed. And I think that's part of where I ended up getting some of that from. And my mother, she used to sing opera and stuff like that. So
oh, wow.
I was going up to the city. So just watching what they did. So it's really homegrown. So I've always liked clothes. But again, it was just always paying attention. Paying attention. When I would come home, like I was lucky enough that when I was younger, I took a couple trips over to Europe in high school, and I always came back with these cool clothes. And people are always like, "Steven, where'd you get that from?" I'm like, "I'll give it a year. It's going to take a year to get over."
Right.
So that's I think
that's cool.
So
yeah. So I love that. I love that story, and I think so. Do you find it? So one of the things that I found, right, is that I went from, as an example, being in a suit literally every single day of my life for like at least like 8 to 9 years with my business. And what's shifted is that, like, when I do like things like if I'm going to speak somewhere, or if I have like a big meeting in the city or something, like whatever, like I'm like, okay, I got to be ready for that, right? Or if it's like a formal dinner, weddings, whatever. Do you see people like still coming in and because everyone got so casual now?
Yeah, everybody. I feel like it's way too casual that they don't know what to do anymore when it's time for these things.
Yeah,
and that's really where I kind of come into play a little bit, because I get some customers I have no idea, Steven, what do I do? And I'll start asking the question, where's it at? What's it for?
Right.
How much do you want to stand out? What do you do for a living? Oh, wow, you're in advertising. You need to stand out.
Yeah.
You can't be a wallflower. You need something to make you stand out. And I'm seeing people doing that. I'm even seeing some of the younger people starting to realize they need to dress up or
like
level up.
get better dressed.
hmm
I love that. And you know what? I always say, like, I love the older time periods where people like did what you said your dad did, right? Where it's like everybody went out. Like I feel like the early 1900s or mid to 1930s was like, you know, if you're leaving the house, you're going to the grocery store or you're going to work, like you're dressed up,
Yeah,
right? Like now it's so different.
you could be you could be shoveling whatever,
And you're
and
wearing it.
you dressed up before you put on your overalls to get ready
Right.
for work. You know.
And even like I love the so for me what I've always liked is like that British like UK look, like you're going hunting,
hmm
like clay shooting with that type of,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like I've always liked that, and even to that point, whereas like back then, like people would do that to go shooting or activities or
hmm
sports, where now it's very
No.
different. I was in the store the other day. I was in like a Stop and Shop or something, and there was like, you know, people wearing pajamas out,
Mm.
and it's like, you know, it's like people, just the world is shifting. It's so different.
It sounds so bad what I'm about to say, and I'm probably gonna get like backlash from my wife. But I, go for it. It almost looks like a homeless look.
Yeah,
I
right,
hate to say,
right.
like, you know, like
Yeah,
it's like almost like if you ever watched the movie Zoolander,
yeah.
you had the derelict, you know what I mean? It's
Derelict.
not that bad, but
Right.
I'm like, come on, you know, I mean, I know women love guys in gray sweatpants, but
Yeah.
so what I'm seeing is like sweatpants and
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I just like the formal. I like how it looks when you're formal, you know, and the world has shifted, you know. But so now 32 years is a really big deal, right? Like most businesses only wish that they could be in business for half of that, right? Like Adapting Social this year is going to be our 14th year, right? So halfway through,
wow.
right? So now what advice would you give to a business owner who maybe want to start their own like t-shirt company or in the clothing world, right? What advice would you give to them being in this space for this long?
Ooh, that's tough because there's so many different
I
things.
know.
I
Yeah.
mean, first of all, be prepared of putting in the hours, putting in the time. You, I'm trying to find balance in my life right now.
Yeah.
On the joys of getting older, but you know, when you're younger or getting into it, you know, your job is your life or your life
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
You have to get established. You have to put in you have to grind.
Right.
Learn as much of it as you can. If you know anybody who's even in that type of a market you want to go into. Like I
Mhm.
was lucky enough that I worked for the person before I took over the business.
Mm.
And but I've always been in clothing since like 1986.
Right.
So I was always paying attention, trying to learn everything I can.
Mhm.
And I literally almost use everything from every single job I've had to this day. So learn from the people. You may think you have a crap job,
Right.
but take what you can out of it to better yourself,
Right.
to prepare for the next level. You need to look at trends if you're like a t-shirt company. You know, what kind of t-shirts you want to get into, find that niche market. Oh, I want vintage concert t-shirts. You know, you better
Right.
find out whatever you can find. You got to hit the flea markets. You got to hit the Goodwill places and try to
Mhm.
find the stuff because that's what people look for. You may find a shirt for 10 cents and you can
Right.
turn around and turn it for like $200.
Right. Yeah.
So again, you know, I guess find and research and you got to go to the trade shows. If there's such thing as
Right.
have a trade show, you need to
Yeah.
learn. Don't think you know everything because you don't.
Right.
You know, I was taught young that you may know everything about it, but listen to the person that doesn't know anything or is just learning because you still may pick up something from them.
Mm. Be a student of life almost.
And it's checking your ego at the door.
That's huge. Your
Checking
ego is not your amigo. That's for sure. Uh,
that's what I had to learn, you
yeah.
know.
What has been like a so breaking barriers? One of the things that we always like to kind of dive into
Mhm.
is like the like and being a business owner, right? Nowadays it's very like glorified, right? It's very glamified too, where people are like, oh, you own a business, it's very cool, whatever. It's like, you know, now it's trendy. Whereas, you know, most people they look at the cool stuff, like that you're an owner or you can do this, whatever, like, but they don't look at the hard shit behind the scenes, the people,
Mhm.
you know, the issues with customers, like the, you know, payrolls, whatever the hell, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, what has been one of your like bigger challenges that you faced in your career, and how'd you get past it?
Whew.
I know COVID was tough.
COVID was probably one of the toughest things.
Yeah.
With COVID, you know, there was the thought of how long can we last? We needed events to happen again. We needed people to, oh, you're having a wedding. I want more than 10% or 20% of the people there. I want my people. I want to be with them. And with us being shut for 95 days and literally had the worst year ever. But when we took a look back at when we bought the business back, or bought the business out, it was the same numbers. We did the same numbers that same year. So that was my motivation. I'm going to be okay.
We did this already. Like, we get through
I'm
it.
going to be okay. And, you know, we got through a recession. We ended up getting through Hurricane Sandy, which affected us with our uniform business. But literally, it's just the roller coaster. The roller coaster was the hardest part. The other hardest part was realizing going out on my own. I pay myself. You know what I mean? I'm not working for you for me to do a good job. You know what I mean? I got to self-motivate. I have to wake up in the morning the best I possibly can and be like, I'm here. You know, and then sometimes that gets challenging, you know, with life's, you know, not just the business part, but on the personal side. You know, I mean, we have families, you know, we have friends, and sometimes that outside that's not us affects, and you still have to go out there with a happy face and a smiley face. But I feel the hardest part really was going out on my own, realizing I can do this, knowing that I knew more than enough to do it, and I also had some good people to lean back on who had businesses. You know what I mean? So I can ask some questions and, hey, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in that? So mentorship is a good thing too. Sometimes, and even if it's in a business that's not the same business, still we all have the same issues.
Of course.
So I think that's part of it.
I remember when I first saw you, you know, you shared how, like, the one thing, like, you kind of faced the same issues that, like, wedding venues were facing, where people are like, I'm on my money back. Like, my wedding's not happening. So so not only was it like you got, you know, a shutdown, but people want money, you know, stuff back, and it makes it really challenging as a business owner.
We ended up giving back. Now, thank God the deposits were not as crazy. Thank God that we're lucky enough and blessed that, you know, the people are still having their functions, even though they were postponed. You know, but we still had to give a decent chunk of change back to people, because they weren't positive. You know, but again, I felt that was the right thing to do.
And honestly, it's just good ethical business, which is great. And again, most people listening in right now, you know, that's the tough part about COVID, that most people don't realize, that for the business owners out there, you know, that we're going through, you know, whether it was wedding industry, fashion industry, whatever it is, you know, you had, you know, that shutdown, and then a lot of these businesses wanted refunds. And their money back, which is tough. And I get it. I get both sides, right? Because if I was at the wedding, I paid you. What the heck is not happening? It's nobody's right or wrong. It's just a tough. It's a pickle. You know. But that's so. What was your takeaway then? So, like, looking back, like, if you were to say, so this actually is a better question, right? So if you were to go back to the day you bought the business and give yourself some advice, knowing what you know now, what would you walk up to yourself and tell yourself?
Oh, that's the toughest question ever. Wow. The toughest question. The hardest part is going to be that what I tell myself.
He's like, don't buy the business. I'm just kidding.
I mean, honestly, to be straight up honest, there's sometimes you look back and like, oh my God, what did I do? You know what I mean? But I'm going to tell you that I would tell myself the same thing I almost do every day. You know, it's going to be okay. We're going to push through. You're going to have the hard times. You know what I mean? Save. Save.
We're going to put double save there. Triple save.
Don't ball out all the time. You know what I mean? You don't have to go crazy.
Unless you need a suit, come ball out at ChazMatazz.
Please,
in that case, come ball out.
But I guess it would just be I would say try to find balance. I would say try to find balance. You know what I mean? It's and give yourself your time that you need somehow, some way. It's kind of like when you save. You know what I mean? You want to try to save some money. You know, well, maybe I want 20% of my time for me. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about.
That allocation. One of the things I remember early on in my career, when I first got engaged to my wife, aka when I met you, you know, I was in this period of just nonstop grinding. I remember I was in New York all the time. I was driving to Connecticut. I was literally all over the place, literally nonstop. And I remember just like going 1,000 miles per hour, right? And at the time, I felt like, yes, this is great. I don't need to sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. You know, that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And then you wake up one day and you realize, like, you know, fuck, I need sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you need to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And also, like, I wasn't spending any time with my wife, right? Because I was always out on the road, always working, right?
Don't know what you're talking about. Never been there.
Right. So you know, it's like you're always grinding, right? I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But I remember COVID happened, and I found myself for the first time, right at that point in time. I think I was in business for like close to like 10 or 11 years, whatever it was at that time, and it was the first time that I was not in my office and I was home every day, right? Like not out and like not, you know, like not away. And we were in the same house and, you know, doing the same stuff. And I remember the first year, I said to myself, I was like, I'm never gonna be away from my wife that much again. And I would ask entrepreneurs all the time, as I would say to them, I would interview people like just when I'm out, like, so what, you know, how did you find the balance? And they always told me there is no balance, right? John, I don't want to give you some bullshit. There is no balance. And I'd be like, oh my God. And then I hired this executive coach close to like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember telling him this. I'm like, oh, you know, there's no balance, whatever. And he said to me, he goes, listen, everybody out there has their own limiting beliefs that they either put on you because that's what they think, and you can either subscribe to it or you can create your own destiny, right? So I remember like, all right, you know, he's like, because it is possible, right? He's like, but you have to make, it's not gonna be easy, right? But it is possible. So I'm like, okay, whatever, like, and then he told me that, and then I went back, you know, and this is before COVID, he told me that, but back into work mode, and then COVID happened. And I remember thinking like, okay, you have to make your stand because before COVID, he told me that. I was like, great words, cool, like great. So then I went back into the normal world and just went back to work, and just kept doing the normal shit and was just busy again, never seeing, you know, my wife. And, you know, and then boom, COVID happened. And like I said, I made this stance, but I heard this thing from this guy, Jim Rohn, and he said something along the lines like, nobody gets time. You make time, right? Nobody in the world just gets time. You make it, right? So at the end of the day, you know, he said something along those lines, and he's like, you know, and it resonated because COVID happened and I was with my wife, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this. And then I developed this whole thought process where it's like a harmony, not balance. Because when you're trying to balance anything, right? When does the scale tip? It's always going to tip in one direction. So it's like, I don't want balance. I want harmony, right? I want to enjoy. And so there's different levels, because when COVID happened, I was sleeping the most I've ever slept. I was like, holy shit, I can sleep again. Which I'm sure. Right.
The first time in God knows how long.
I love it. So literally, me too. I play PlayStation, but literally, it's like, you know, you get to do, but you get to have fun, right? Like that's fun. Like that's like, you know, you don't get to like be like a kid and have fun like that shit, because you're always in work mode sometimes, and you can't go do that stuff. And COVID allowed me to play PlayStation or like have fun or be with my wife or just be home, or, you know, in the summertime just hang out. Like so it's like, but to your point, right, where it's like, you know, you're at this, you know, point now in your career where you're like, now I'm looking for that next step, the next level to my career where I don't have to be there every day, or you know, it's running itself. And for a lot of entrepreneurs listening in, like that's always the challenge, because it's like you work your ass off, right, since you bought the business to make it stay alive.
Absolutely.
And then you got it alive, and then it becomes a vacuum of your time, right? And then you have no time, and if you don't get to enjoy the fruits of your labor, right, then, you know, then what's going on?
Yeah, that truly is.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I gotta know what games were you playing on Xbox?
What was I playing?
He just sparked up the Xbox.
What was I playing? One of them was some kind of racing game.
Oh, okay, like a Need for Speed or something.
Then I hate to say it was like one of those killing people games.
Oh, like the Call of Duty.
Yeah, thank you. Call of Duty. An old
Call of Duty is a great one. Yeah.
It was Call of Duty, one of the old school ones.
Okay.
I never updated what I need.
Well, you're too busy doing stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So okay, so we're getting close to the end here, and I like to ask 2 tough questions.
Yeah.
You ready for this? We got an audience behind us here. Sorry, 2 tough questions. So I have a really tough one, and then I have like an easy one.
Okay.
Well, it's not easy, but it's, let's say it's my
softball pitch one.
Yeah, it's a softball pitch. So which one do you want first?
Give me the hard one.
All right, let's go. Let's go. So right now, I've asked this question for literally probably maybe 60 or 70 people, entrepreneurs, and only one person has ever said, give me the easy one first. So I love that. Stays consistent with that. Give us the rough shit first. We'll deal with the easy shit later. Typical entrepreneurship, love it. All right, so we like legacy, right?
It's so funny. That's a word I've been using a lot lately.
Really?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So interesting. So legacy. So a lot of times we think about legacy. We're feet are planted here today, right? And then what we're gonna do and what we're gonna leave behind. But from where we are thinking, typically where we're standing, we think about it. So it's very forward thinking.
Yeah.
So I like to kind of reverse engineer this process.
Okay.
Right. Make it a little more difficult. So there's one thing that will forever supersede, right? You, your wife, family, whoever, and it's your gravestone, right? And obviously I know recently that's been a thing, right? So, but this is a question I ask every guest. So if you were to write that today, how would you want to be remembered?
He was a good man.
Point blank, boom.
Just that's it. He was a good man.
What defines a good man?
That's a tough question.
It's to you, of course.
I believe in loyalty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for me, you know what? I'm gonna use this as an example. I have one of my past employees, great kid, had self-esteem issues, all the rest. He gave me a Father's Day card one year.
Oh wow.
Steven, I'm gonna cry on this one.
Wow, that's deep though.
Thank you for being you.
Right.
Thank you for showing me things that I can do.
Yeah. Wow.
Not realizing, and he actually considers me a father type figure / mentor.
Wow.
And every time I just get choked up by it. So that's
deep,
dude.
That
Stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
remembered.
Yeah.
For being a decent guy. So I know I can be a pain in the ass. I know it can be very difficult. I know it can be not quite Gordon Ramsay, but it's I know I can be that way because I want the best.
Yeah.
I also want to bring out the best in the people that work for me because again, what are they going to go on to next? And maybe they got something from me.
Right.
And there's been a few of the guys, even the one girl, she's pretty much has said the same thing. So that's pretty much what it boils down to is I try to be a very fair person. I try to be understanding. I try to be giving as much as I can. But that's it. Just to be remembered.
That's deep, man. So first of all, I love that. And honestly, just for the record, so when I asked that question, I've had more people cry on this, right? I was in Miami, right? And I had a hedge fund owner in Miami that I went to go meet and on a podcast. And we're sitting there talking, all of a sudden, boom, same situation. But you know what? That's why I like that question, because when I first got that asked to me years ago, I thought about my family. And I thought about like my brothers and sisters, because like growing up, like those were like my kids. So to me, I was like, wow, like, and I got emotional. And I was like, it's a very deep thought to think about that, right? Because a lot of times, we're sitting here, we're doing what we're doing every day, blah blah blah. But the end, like Steve Jobs always said, like the end is designed to get out the old and bring in the new, right? It's designed that way. And it could also be a motivator, right? Because what we're doing here today is going to ultimately, again, like what you're doing to be remembered, right? Yeah. So I love that. I think it's amazing. You crushed that. Literally, dude is crushing everything I'm throwing at him today. And then the other one, the last one here is over the years, right? Has there been any sort of like, when you think about perseverance, things like COVID, maybe the beginning of buying the business and like having to grind and, being your own motivator, has there been anything you picked up in terms of like an adage or a quote when it comes to perseverance, even if it's a Stephen original?
Oh God. Oh, God first, your last. No.
I mean, listen, that's a real one. Right?
God, I said it all the time. I said it to my one niece one time. You know what I mean? She was so happy. She came in like, I don't forget what place she came in. It's so bad at me that I did it.
Right, first or
and
last.
I was like, oh, I said, so you're like the first loser.
Right.
And it's a look she gave me. And my wife yelled at me. So, but yeah, I mean, it's
I love that though.
It was so bad at me, but she understood that I put drive
in her. Yeah,
but,
there you go.
Honestly, it's I guess if it's not your first or last, I think do you agree over there? Yeah,
first or last.
Yeah,
I like that.
So I always try to
Ricky Bobby.
Yeah, I always try to be the best that I can.
Right.
I try to bring out the best in my people that work for me. And I try to make my customers look the best. So all those things, it's always about being first, being
at the top.
Yeah. So
top,
and because I have a competitive nature, I really don't like to lose.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can, but I don't like it. I don't like second
It's like
place.
it's not right. The first loser.
Yeah.
I love that. I actually never heard that before. Second place, your first loser. You're first, your last, baby. You heard it here first, Steven. ChazMatazz. But
I'm really not that bad, guys.
no. But thank you so much. And I like to ask that question because when I first started adapting social, I was a teenager, I was young, and I thought about like what I need to do to like motivate myself. So I'm Googling, and I found this quote, and I put it on my my wall in my room and in my bathroom, all over the place. And it read, live a few years of your life like most people won't. So you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And as entrepreneurs, right, the buck starts and stops with us.
Yeah.
So no, you might have the best day ever, right? But then all of a sudden one thing goes wrong with an employee or a customer, and there's a wrench in your day, right? And it's like, so at the end of the day, you've worked hard at ChazMatazz, you built up what you have. You have a great reputation. Everybody who knows ChazMatazz thinks of you, knows you. I'm out there on the streets pounding the pavement with this guy all the time. But I'm just again honored to be able to have you on the pod.
Thank you.
Work together, obviously, and then also just like again, like it's hard to find people, especially around here. That's why what attracted me so much to you and coming to ChazMatazz for my own stuff was that you're so passionate about what you're talking about. Like and there's things that I'm not even thinking about, and I'm freaking crazy when it comes to when I'm getting dressed up and like in a suit and stuff. And and to the point of legacy again, right? It's like anybody that I've spoken to that has been from Tom's River, whether it's me, I'm sorry, my wife's brother, or my brother-in-law, it's also from Tom's River, or list goes on. Everybody always loves ChazMatazz, right? So no matter what, obviously you've done a great job. You and your wife, you guys are killing it over there. People know you, they love you guys. Now this is the part where you plug yourself. Where can people find you? We're going to pop up on the screen here, your website and stuff, but, social media, website, location, number, phone number, the whole thing,
Gotcha.
home address,
The
social security,
blood type,
right.
you can find us on the dark web at
Call of Duty handle.
We're ChazMatazz Formal Wear of Tom's River. We're located at 984 Route 166, across from the cemetery, our quiet neighbors. Our website is ChazMatazzdTR.com. Our Instagram is ChazMatazz1. Facebook, ChazMatazz Formal Wear of Tom's River. That's pretty much, I think, everything. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. If you're at NJ, and I'm telling you right now, again, I don't care how far you are from Tom's River. If you are looking to, and you're a gentleman, and you're looking to get dapper, I don't care if it's for a wedding, I don't care if it's you're in sales, whatever the case is. I'm telling you right now, this is the guy to go to, hands down. Not even twice to think about it. This is the guy to go see in Tom's River. Thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. And for our audience here too, we got a live audience behind us over here. Look at this.